Hello everyone, welcome to Simply Fun Cooking. I am Rachel Hanson and I'm super excited to have you here today. Today we are going to make a really nice, warm, comforting dinner, but it's going to be healthy. So it's going to be really great for the new year as we all have our goals for this new year to try to eat some healthier foods, get some more vegetables into our diet, make sure we have plenty of protein. And so today this recipe is going to make sure you have all that. So we're going to make a roasted butternut squash stew and a rosemary herb chicken and orzo. So we're going to be putting our cast iron Dutch oven to use. We're going to be using the quick cooker and the air fryer today. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our roasted butternut squash stew. And we're going to start with our butternut squash. We're going to cut off the ends. We're going to get it peeled and diced up. Now you can roast your butternut squash in the oven. We're going to do this in the air fryer because it'll be a little bit quicker. We don't have to heat up the oven, and it's just really super easy. So now the serrated peeler is fantastic for things like this butternut squash, but it also works really well on your softer foods. So if you're peeling kiwis, the serrated peeler will be perfect for that. You can use it for your carrots as well if you wanted. But you don't need the serrated edge for carrots, but it does work really well. All right, once we have this peeled, we are going to dice it up. We need about 3 cups of that butternut squash once it's diced. So we're just going to cut off the end here, and we can pull out these seeds and cut this up as well. We're going to see how much of this we need. So just look for a small butternut squash. You don't need a huge one for this recipe. All right, but we do want to cut this into some bite-sized chunks. So we're going to take some olive oil, just need about a tablespoon. All right, so then we're going to use our seasoning, our Cinnamon Plus seasoning. And then we need about half of a teaspoon, not too much. And we're going to add in a little bit of salt. Not too much, just a little bit. And then our cayenne. You can put in about 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne. It's just a little sprinkle. All right, and we're going to mix this all up. Once you have your butternut squash all ready to go, we are going to put that on the trays for the deluxe air fryer. So we're just going to lay them out. You want a nice single layer so we can get some nice roasting going on. Now we're going to put these in the air fryer on the roast setting for about 20 minutes. So we'll check on them halfway through. Of course, the air fryer will beep when it's halfway through its cooking cycle, and we can swap the trays so that they get nice even cooking. One tray will be closer to the top to begin with and where the heat comes from, and then we'll switch it up. So now I'm going to take these over to the air fryer and we're going to get this all started. So we'll put the 2 trays in. Put one at the top and one in the middle. So we'll close that up. We'll turn this to roast, turn it up to 20 minutes, and press start. So the stew we are going to make in the cast iron Dutch oven. So I'm going to go ahead and start heating this up, and we're going to put a little oil in the bottom to start heating up. So just need about a tablespoon or 2. And while that is warming up, we're going to get some other veggies prepped and ready to go in. We're going to have a couple of little onions here. You just need like 1 medium onion. I've got 2 small onions. So we're going to get those peeled. We're going to chop them up with the food chopper. So it'll be nice and finely diced. And we're going to add some garlic and some zucchini. We're going to use the food chopper to chop up our onions, so we're just going to give it a quick little dice. Then we're going to use the food chopper to chop them up, ready for the stew. All right, we're going to get our zucchini prepped. For our zucchini, we are just going to cut off the ends. We want some half moons, so we're going to cut off the ends. And we're going to cut it into thirds. And then cut those thirds in half lengthwise. Take our quick slice, and we can slice these into half moons really quickly. So we'll just put that cut up zucchini right on here. Rock back and forth. And you have your perfect 1/4 inch half moon slice. All right, so we'll add in our onions, and we're going to put a little bit of salt on top. And we just want to cook these up until they soften a bit. It'll be just a couple minutes, about 3 minutes. All right, a little bit of salt on top. Our onions, we let them cook for about 3 minutes just to start softening up. And we're going to add into our pot, we are going to add in some garlic. So I'm going to go ahead and get that garlic press out. Add a couple of cloves of garlic. And we're going to put that in now, let it cook for just a few seconds, because when you cook your herbs and your spices, it brings out some more of the flavor. So we'll put in, there's a teaspoon, and there is 2 teaspoons of our cinnamon plus. All right, so now we're going to add some crushed tomatoes. So 1 large can of crushed tomatoes are going to go in. And always make sure to use your smooth edge can opener so that then you can use your scraper and you can get all those tomatoes out of the can without worrying about cutting up your scraper. We're going to add in our zucchini that we chopped up. We're going to add in 1 can of chickpeas, and I drain them and I rinse them, because when you do that, you can take away about 30% of the sodium. And so it makes it a lot healthier, and you still get that great flavor from the chickpeas. So we're going to add those in. Give us a little stir here. And then we're going to add in some chicken broth, about 1.5 cups. And if you want to make this a vegetarian recipe, make a vegetable broth. Very easy swap to make. All right, so for our broth, as you guys know, I love using just a nice dry bouillon, so I don't have to have the cans of broth on hand. So 2 teaspoons makes 1 cup, so we need 3 teaspoons. 3 teaspoons is the same as a tablespoon. So we're going to add a tablespoon of this in. And our air fryer is ready for us to switch the trays for our squash. So I will do that in just a second. So we add in the powder and then about 1.5 cups of water. And we'll give that a mix. And that is how we have chicken broth on hand without having to store big cans or boxes. Plus, then you can make just what you need. You know, you don't have to open a big box and only use a cup of it, or you don't have to open a can and only use a little bit of it. You just make what you need as you need it. All right, we're going to go ahead and just let this kind of sit. We're going to bring it up to a simmer and let it cook for a bit. And I'm going to go check on the squash. All right. Smells good. We're going to go ahead and switch these trays. Close the door and that'll keep cooking. We have the base of our stew going. We're going to bring this up to a boil and then let it simmer. And then we're gonna add in those butternut squash chunks that are still roasting, and we're gonna add in some spinach at the end. So I have here some baby spinach. I've just kind of rinsed it off, and we've got it in the salad berry spinner so that we can give it a nice spin. Dry it off because we don't need to add any extra water. But your salad and berry spinner will make sure that it's nice and clean and dry. All right, use the brakes. So there's our baby spinach. I'm just gonna set this aside here. We'll add that in at the very end, and it'll just wilt as it's sitting in the hot stew. So we don't have to worry about that at all. We'll just put it in when we're pretty much ready and let it sit. So the other thing we are going to do is we are going to serve this stew over couscous. So we're going to use our quick cooker, and we are going to make some couscous right in here. So I'm just using a couple of packages. I'm going to make 2 packages, and we're just going to make this right with the rice setting. So I have the water already in the pot that we need. So I'm going to add in the couscous, just like that. And we're going to add in our seasoning packets, the ones that come with the couscous. I went with the roasted garlic and olive oil today, knowing that the roasted garlic flavor would go well with our stew. So just add that seasoning in. All right, I'm just going to give it a quick little stir here. Put the top of the quick cooker on. We're going to turn it on to the rice setting. It has a 4-minute cook time. It'll come up to pressure, and then it'll cook for 4 minutes, and then it'll be ready to go. All right, we'll go ahead and press start. And we'll let that sit, and then we'll be able to serve this stew over that nice couscous. It'll give a really nice texture balance. Plus, it's just delicious. Couscous is delicious. All right, so our squash is almost done, so we're going to check on that. We're going to see if our squash is all nice and roasted. Hopefully it's nice and soft and tender. If the pieces are not quite ready yet, we'll add a couple more minutes onto the air fryer. Let's check and see how our stew is doing here. Oh, we are starting to bubble. I'm going to show you what this looks like. All right, so we've got our nice tomato-based stew here with our tomatoes and our zucchini. Those zucchinis are cooking right now as we simmer. So we're just going to let this simmer for a few minutes. And this is definitely, I think, a stew that you could make and let simmer on the stovetop, and your whole house would smell so good. Let's grab some squash. Oh my gosh, you guys, look at those beautiful roasted veggies. And just looking at them, I have a feeling they are tender as can be. They are ready to go. All right, so we've got our butternut squash. There we go. So this will be ready to add into our stew shortly. I'm just going to let it sit right here for now. We'll make sure these are also done. Yes, nice and tender and ready. Yep, all ready to go. And if your squash is not quite done, if it's just a little underdone, you can definitely put it in that stew and let it keep simmering, and it'll finish cooking. But now we've got this nice roasted flavor after roasting it in the air fryer. After we've let our stew simmer for a few minutes, oh my gosh, it's so steamy, delicious, smells amazing, my friends. What we're going to do now is we're going to add in all of those delicious pieces of butternut squash that we roasted. So we're just going to add those in, and we're going to let this simmer for another 5 minutes after we add in that squash. And you know what? I'm just going to add in all that squash that I roasted because it is so good. I took a bite, I tasted some. It turned out absolutely amazing. After we have this simmer for 5 minutes, we're going to add in our spinach. You need about 2 cups of spinach. I like to pack it in. I really like spinach a lot, so I really like to pack it in when I measure it out. It looks like a lot more than 2 cups now after washing it and spinning it. But we're going to go ahead and put this spinach in here. And the spinach is going to wilt quite a bit. It looks like a lot of spinach right now, I realize that. but it's going to wilt really quickly when it's in that hot stew. So I'm just going to put some right on top. We're actually just going to cover it and we're going to let it sit for a few minutes. Let that spinach wilt a little bit and then we will stir it in. So we'll just put that in there. Cover it up. Just let it sit and do its thing. Take a look at this stew. You can see our spinach is starting to wilt a bit. We're just going to give this a stir and we'll actually be able to just turn the heat off and just let this sit. You can see the spinach is, there you go, you can see as it wilts as it is cooking in that stew. So we can, at this point, we can turn the heat off and we can just let it sit, and that spinach is going to continue to wilt as it sits in that really hot stew. Our couscous is done. We're going to go ahead and release the steam, open it up and check it. We'll give it a quick stir. And now the quick cooker, remember, it goes automatically into a warming setting. So our couscous will just sit here and stay nice and warm until it's time to serve it with the stew. So we'll just wait till all the pressure has been released and then it'll unlock so we can get inside here. There we go, all unlocked. Ooh, yum. All right, so we've got our couscous here all ready to go. And like I said, this will just sit here and stay nice and warm until everything's all put together. We're going to get these chicken breasts prepped. These are going to go into the air fryer. We're going to cook them in the air fryer on the air fry setting for about 18 to 20 minutes. But we're going to season them a little bit. So we're going to take, I've got about 2 tablespoons of butter in my prep bowl. And we're going to add a tablespoon of our rosemary herb seasoning mix. And we're just going to mix this together. This is just softened butter. You don't want to melt it, you want it nice and soft, because what we're going to do is we're going to take this butter and we are going to put some under the skin of our chicken and some on the outside of the skin of our chicken. Now this is going to help make sure that we have a really juicy tender inside and a nice crispy outside on that chicken. Give it real good texture. Now this is something that you can do with a lot of your seasonings and herbs, any kind that you have on hand. You can make butter like this, and this is really handy to use for things like vegetables. You toss some vegetables into a pan to cook them up, and if you have some of this butter ready to go, you just put a little bit in there and you get the nice oil from the butter and you get the nice seasoning. This works really well for spreading on bread. You know, you can make your own garlic bread if you have your softened butter with like some garlic herb rub in there. Super, super good. All right, so we're gonna take this and like I said, we're gonna put some under the skin and some on top. So you're gonna start by taking your chicken breasts and you just wanna pull the skin away a little bit. Sometimes there's gonna be a little layer there. You kind of have to slice a little bit with your knife, just a little bit, your paring knife there. So we're gonna pull the skin away. We're gonna put some of this butter mixture inside. Then we'll press the skin down and put a little bit on the outside. So I've got that open. Start with some going on the inside. And you might have to get your fingers down and dirty to get it in there. And then, like I said, you just kind of press it down, move it around, and press the skin into it to kind of seal that back up again. And we'll do the same on our other chicken breast here. And now you can see why you don't really want to melt that butter. You just want it to be soft because you want it to be able to stick to your chicken. You don't want it to be running off the end. And of course, it's definitely going to melt when we have it in the air fryer and we're cooking, but we don't want it to melt before then. Now these chicken breasts, we're gonna go ahead and put on our trays for the air fryer. A little bit of oil on the tray first works really well so that you don't have your chicken sticking. So we're just gonna lay both these down. Should be able to get them both onto one tray here. Let's see. All right, so take this tray, open up our air fryer. Now these chicken breasts, since they're pretty thick, so I'm gonna put this in the middle rack here. so they have plenty of space above them for air circulation. So we're going to turn this to air fry. We're going to turn it down to, I'm going to turn it to 18 minutes, and then we will check them. And if we need to do a couple more minutes, we can add that on. But we'll start with 18 minutes, and we'll check the temperature of our chicken. All right, in the meantime, we are going to get some orzo ready to go with this. So I'm going to set some of these things aside, clean up, and get ready to make that with you. Let's get our orzo started. We are going to take a saucepan, and we're going to heat it up on medium to high heat. And we're going to put just a tablespoon of butter in there to start melting. So get that ready here. So tablespoon of butter in your small saucepan. And while that is heating up and melting, we are going to chop up a really small onion. So a nice small onion, or like half of your onion if it's a little bit bigger. Just need a little bit of onion here. So we'll peel that, we'll chop that up with the food chopper. And just like we did with the stew, as soon as that butter is melted, we are going to add in this onion, and we're going to cook it up a little bit, just till it's soft, just a couple minutes. So just like the other recipe, we're just going to give this a real quick chop, just to kind of chunk it up a little bit. All right? And then with the food chopper, chop up your onion. I'm going to make it a little more fine than we did for the stew. So once our butter is melted, we're going to add that onion in here. Swirl my butter around a little bit here. We're going to go ahead and add all of this onion to the butter. We're going to let this soften, like I said, just about 3 minutes, until your onions kind of start turning a little bit clear in color. Then you'll know that they are softening up. So after our onions have cooked for just a couple of minutes, about 3 minutes, we're going to add in our orzo pasta, about 1 cup. We're going to add in 1/4 cup of dried cranberries. We're going to add about a teaspoon of that rosemary herb seasoning mix. And then we're going to add in the broth. So I'm going to add in about 1 3/4 cup of broth. So here's our water. And then we'll add in the bouillon. So add that in, a little extra here. There we go. We're going to give this a stir, and then we're going to bring this up to a boil. Once we get it to a boil, we're just going to reduce the heat a little bit, bring it to a simmer, and we're just going to let this simmer for 10 minutes, just to get that orzo all cooked up. We need to get out our instant read food thermometer. So chicken, you definitely want to make sure to cook to about 165 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to take that chicken out and see how it's doing. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Look at that beautiful browning on the skin. We're going to stick this into the middle of the breast here and see what we've got. Got about 117 here. 123. Yeah, it's going to need a couple more minutes. All right, we'll put that back in for 2 more minutes. Our chicken is almost done, and it does not take long in the air fryer. So we'll check it in a couple of minutes. We're going to give a little look at our orzo here. I think this is just about ready. You can see that our pasta has soaked up all of that liquid that we put in there, all of that broth. It is going to be so delicious, nice and savory, and those cranberries have plumped up a little bit after cooking. This looks perfect. So we are just going to go ahead and set this aside. Put it on trivet over here. And we're going to toast up some pecans to go on top of this dish. So we're going to get a little fry pan here. We're going to get this heated up a little bit. And we're going to chop up some of our pecans. So we're going to use our food chopper again. And this time, instead of chopping on a cutting board, I'm just going to go ahead and put that little rubber base on, so then we can chop right in here. Just put the cover on, and you can just chop right inside. All right, so then we'll just take the top off here. Make sure you keep a finger underneath that rubber base. And then you have your pecans all chopped up and they're in like a little bowl. So we're just gonna put these right in our pan. We don't need to add any oil or anything. We just have our pecans. And so as the pan heats up, these are gonna toast up a little bit. You'll know when they're done when you really start smelling them. When they become fragrant, then you know that they're done and they're ready. These pecans are ready. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn off the heat. You don't want to toast them so long that you start burning your pecans. So once you can start smelling them, that's when you know you're done. All right, so we have everything all ready to go. We are going to get our dinner all plated up. Now we're going to start over here with our couscous. We use the really large pearl couscous, all right? You could use the small regular couscous. You could use rice pilaf. You could use quinoa, you could use orzo pasta. Really, this meal, when you make it, you could use the same grains for both of your recipes. I just decided to switch it up a little bit here. Oh my gosh, this stew is so thick. It looks so good. So we're gonna put some of this stew in with our couscous here. All right. We're going to move over here. We're going to plate up our chicken. So we're going to take some of this orzo pasta and put it on our plate. Just like this. And we're going to get that chicken out. So we'll get our plate ready here. Chicken, set that right on top just like this. Now, here comes the fun magic. On top of our chicken and our orzo, we're gonna put just a few of those toasted pecans. In your stew, you can put some hot sauce, you can put some plain yogurt or Greek yogurt. We're gonna add a few cashews on top and a bit of fresh cilantro. We're just gonna tear up a couple pieces and put that on top. So nice, fresh flavors. So there you have it. We have our roasted butternut squash stew over couscous today. And then we have our rosemary, herb, chicken, and orzo. So perfectly nice, fresh, healthy, balanced meal. You get those nice comfort food flavors, but we've got lots of great nutrients with your butternut squash and your tomatoes. And you can play with those grains. You can use whole grain rice. You could use wild rice, whatever suits your appetite, your mood, and your diet best. So many ways to switch that up. And then of course, what's really great is you can take this recipe and you can alter it throughout the year. You know, instead of rosemary on our chicken, maybe you try some different herbs. Maybe you go with a garlic, maybe you go with a southwestern or a taco, or I mean, you can do anything with that, right? And you can, you could do like a southwestern seasoning and make some Spanish rice to go with it. That would be really good. So many different ways that you can mix this up, take this basic recipe and make it fun and make it your own. So next time you're looking for some fun ideas to mix up your dinner routine, give these two recipes a try. So if you would like these recipes, if you'd like to learn any more about any of the products that I used today, you can go on over to pamperedchef.com. You can search for me, Rachel Hanson, or your local Pampered Chef consultant. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.